Auburn. Number 9, Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a 6.5-point favorite. The over-under I have is 148 receiving yards for Mario Craver. That's what he's averaging. Pretty darn good for the A&M receiver, the Mississippi State transfer. He leads power conference receivers in receiving, even though he's only played 3 games, and pretty much everyone else has played 4. Yeah. If there's a weakness in the Auburn defense, it is the secondary. John Mateer had a broken thumb. We just talked about it. And he still completed 11 consecutive passes against that unit.
When you really put that in perspective, it's like, yeah, that's a problem, isn't it? Like, statistically, It may not look great, but then when you factor in that the dude couldn't feel his hand.
Yeah. Sawyer Robertson had more passing yards than anybody in FBS week 1 against that Auburn secondary. A lot of running room for Michael Trigg against Auburn. Auburn might be the single most pressure-dependent unit in the SEC right now. Sometimes that's going to make them look really darn good because there are certain quarterbacks that are going to struggle to buy time, and they're going to be very overwhelmed by the likes of Crawford and Falk. We're going to keep talking about those guys.
But is Marcel Reed one of these quarterbacks, Cotter?
Exactly, Will. Exactly. I don't think Marcel Reed will struggle to buy time. I do think Reed is improved, but the area where he continues to struggle is throwing against pressure. When he's been under pressure this year, he's averaging 3.6 yards per pass attempt. The problem is that he's only been under pressure on 26% of his dropbacks because that A&M offensive line is solid. He can also scramble. He's got 91 yards on 14 scrambles this year. And while you can spy him, that's one defender that you're removing from coverage against a group of pass catchers that are establishing themselves as some of the best in college football with Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion. Those guys have been awesome so far. We also just kind of saw the training wheels come off of Le'Veon Moss in that Notre Dame game. He had the bye week to get fresh legs even more so going into this one. What I am trying to say is that A&M's offense has been extremely difficult to defend against. And I think that there are going to be a lot of SEC teams that are going to struggle to shut them down because of all the different ways that they can beat you over the course of 60 minutes. They've been very, very versatile so far, and I think that's going to continue. I think it continues against Auburn. I like the over a lot in these games this week. I mentioned that before. The over-under for this one's 52.5. I'd be taking the over on this. I think A&M wins a 35-24 game. An Auburn streak of 8 consecutive losses to ranked teams in true road games continues.
Yeah, I'm loving the over in this one for sure. I really just wish I could pick Auburn in this one. We've already seen Auburn win this one, but a little bit different as far as, the location of the game and everything like that. I think that A&M might be a little bit higher, or might be a little bit too high right now, but I just don't think Auburn's a team that can expose that, especially given kind of what we've seen out of them lately. The caliber of athlete on A&M is just a little bit better than Auburn, and sometimes that's what Auburn does end up falling back on. If their game plan isn't great, whenever you've seen them compete in these games, it's like, they still got some dudes in a couple of key places. And to your point, their pass rush or their ability to get pressure has been great, especially we talked about this with Dylan Stewart at South Carolina, where Keldrick Falk hasn't exactly been the exact focal point, but the other guys have gotten through because offensive lines have.
He's still so disruptive though with
exactly.
the batted passes and stuff. Even when he's not getting home, he makes a big time difference.
Exactly. And you have to do so much to stop him where it's statistically he doesn't exactly show up, but then everybody else is eating, and it's like that. You kind of have to pick your poison, and you'd rather one guy beat you, honestly, than have everybody else getting through. And you can see that the whole offensive line's kind of eating for Auburn. So, yeah, I think that there are going to be some very questionable passes in this game, I think we can say. There are going to be some, maybe not ducks, but balls going to no one in particular. But I do think that A&M's balance is what I like better, to say it that way. The balance of Auburn is simply just, is their quarterback going to run the ball, or is their quarterback going to throw the ball? With A&M, at least they have a couple of sources for that. Great receiver matchup. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, could end up being multiple all SEC receivers playing in this game. Cam Coleman, what he showed in that Oklahoma game is he is capable of being a cheat code. Cam Coleman's the real deal. They haven't even really gotten Eric Singleton going yet. I know he was banged up coming into the season, but it is a great receiver matchup with the guy and 2 quarterbacks who really need that. And I think they're going to rely on that a lot. Jackson Arnold struggled to be able to obviously stay upright in that game against Oklahoma. Not sure if you heard, but 10 sacks in that one. And having the ability to look at something line of scrimmage and go, I've got Cam Coleman on this guy. Beneficial. Very, very beneficial. And could allow them to put up some points in this one. But it's tough to see how much Auburn's offensive line struggled last week and then to pick them to all of a sudden go on the road and beat a top 10 team.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, if if I said these are the two, I don't think these are the two best receiving cores because Coleman's that guy, and Singleton's solid, but I think A&M truly has two number ones. That's actually kind of what Auburn had last year, but they couldn't capitalize it. It's the classic, like, what if I told you these receivers run these teams and you'd go, surely they have dynamic passing offenses. And it's like, well, actually their quarterbacks just rely on these guys to make amazing one-on-one plays because their legs are so scary. And so, I do think just overall, these teams are kind of versions of each other. But A&M is just a better version. I like A&M here, especially not on the voodoo magic of the Plains.
History is not on Auburn's side in this one. And I realize Auburn is just outside of the AP Top 25. Mike Elko doesn't lose these games. He doesn't. His last time losing a home game to an unranked team was year one at Duke in 2022. And Drake May threw a game-winning touchdown pass for UNC and with 16 seconds left. Also, Auburn has 14 consecutive losses to AP top 10 teams in true road games, with only 3 of them decided by one score. This has not been a good spot for Auburn in the past. And we've talked about A&M's road woes, which have since looked like they've been corrected under Mike Elko, but at home, they've been a constant. I mean, they just have always been able to show up at Kyle Field and look the part. So I do think that while I agree with you, I think there are other areas later in the season that A&M could be like, you know what? Maybe they're not a top 10 type quality team. I don't think this is necessarily the week in which that comes out.
Yes, and just I need to hold myself accountable for actually saying something and picking these games. I'm going to take A&M to cover 6.5 and the over on this one.
Yeah, a lot of overs this week. A lot of overs on this week.